All right, appreciate everyone for joining us for Coach Franklin's weekly press conference. We'll start with an opening statement from Coach, and then we'll open up for questions.
As always, appreciate you guys coming out to cover Penn State football. We appreciate that and don't take that for granted. Obviously, disappointed with the result of last week's game. Did not live up to our expectations or standards. Over our time here, we really haven't had those types of games. So obviously disappointed, and when that happens, it forces you to look at everything from the top down, starting with me. You kind of go over the statistics in the game. Turnover battle, we lost. Had the one turnover to start the second half, which obviously was significant, and we're not getting turnovers right now. Explosive play battle, we won. We were at 21%. They were at 11%, almost 12%. The third and fourth down battle, we did not win. That's been a fairly consistent theme all year long. Sack battle, we won. Drive start battle, we won. The penalty battle, we lost. Going into that game, UCLA was ranked 131st in the country, and we were ranked 5th in the country. We lost that by 8 yards. Middle 8, we won that. But at the end of the day, the stats are the stats. We did not play winning football. There was some uncharacteristic things that showed up in the game. Every time we had a chance to swing momentum back in our favor, whether it was the block punt or the long touchdown, we give up we're down. We get it back to within 7, and then all of a sudden they go on a drive and widen the margin back to 14 again. We get a long touchdown. We get an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty after the play. Again, things that we really haven't done in my time. So disappointed with the results, and I get it. I get the frustration. Again, it starts with me. We look at everything in detail. And now, obviously, we're on to Northwestern, doing everything we possibly can to get a win against Northwestern this week and get on a positive roll. So open up the questions.
Let's go to Rich Garcella, followed by Bob Flounders.
Thanks, Greg. Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Hey, Rich.
I'm having problems with my computer with video, so I apologize. How would you evaluate the linebacker play Saturday? And if Cam Smith isn't ready for increased snaps, are you considering moving any of the safeties to linebacker to improve the depth there?
Yeah, obviously, when you lose a guy like Tony Rojas, who's played a ton of football for us and is one of our better players, that's going to have an impact, right? So more reps for Amari and more reps for DeLuca. And then, obviously the plan is we're going to have to start playing guys like you mentioned, Cam, who played a little bit, but not significant reps the way the game was going. So, yeah, we're going to have to play those guys. We're going to have to continue to develop them. Cam is part of that discussion. Specca is part of that discussion. There's times we did some really nice things. There's other times where we didn't. Had some mistakes, had some missed assignments. And most importantly, just playing with confidence right now. So that's a challenge. I think it's a fair question. And, obviously whenever you lose one of your better players on your team at a position we were already lacking depth, that's going to create some challenges for us. So, yeah, that's going to be a point of attention all week long with our coaching staff, with the players. And we're going to have to rotate those guys in there.
Let's go to Bob Flounders, followed by Mike Gross.
Hello, James. How are you? Thanks for your time.
You too, Bob.
James, when you look at Katron Allen's production this season, in your mind, just how important is it to get him more involved in the offense, not only against Northwestern, but just moving forward. And I was just curious on your thoughts on how you guys used him against UCLA.
Yeah, so I don't think there's any doubt that Katron's having a good year and have been very productive, and that's kind of what we look at each week is how are we getting him touches, and then also it's not necessarily play count, but it's also opportunities that he's getting to touch the ball. So that's something we discuss as an offensive staff each week. He's obviously been very productive. Obviously, when things don't go well, then that's one of the first things you look at, and you say he needs more touches and should have had more touches in that game. So yeah, I think that's a fair question. We had a similar discussion ourselves as a staff.
Let's go to Mike Gross, followed by Frank Bodani.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Hey, Mike.
Coming into the season, a lot of people who know a lot about this sport and aren't Penn State fans thought this was a chance to be one of the best teams in the country. And I'm sure you thought that too. And I'm just wondering, you said you question everything. Why do you think it's not happening? And I mean, in terms of causes more than effects, like to say, well, we've been inconsistent or we haven't executed. Those are kind of like effects. What's going on? What are you seeing? Is there anything that you've thought about that could change maybe the way you coach them the rest of the way?
Yeah. So first of all, I think the first thing is there's been obviously some adjustments to what we're doing on defense and getting our guys to play confident within the system. Is still a work in progress. I don't think that's a question. We're not playing as fast and as aggressive as we have in the past on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, that's probably where those question marks probably are as much as anything, because year two with Andy, and then also so many returning players on the offensive side of the ball. And we've been inconsistent. I know that's that was part of your question, is not using that word, but if I had the answer, I would give it to you right now. But that's what we're working through every single day, is finding ways to be more consistent. That's in our execution. That's in our play calling. That's in all of it. That's, again, from the top all the way down, starting with me, all the coaches, the coordinators, the players. It's all of it. Special teams has probably been the area that we've been the most consistent this year with, year two with Coach Lustig. So we want to build on that. Obviously, the block punt, I used as an example to show the players on Sunday that, that really worked out exactly the way it should work out. The coaches kind of came up with a plan to get Nittany matched up on the long snapper. We repped it a few times in practice. We made some adjustments. We had some good discussions with the players. They went out and executed the plan, and we had success. And, we need to take, obviously, a similar approach on offense and on defense to put ourselves in the best position to be successful. So, I get it. We're not the only team that's in a similar situation like this. Like I mentioned before, there's examples as recent as last season, teams that have had tough losses and have been able to overcome it. We need to overcome it as quickly as we possibly can, tune out the noise, focus on getting better, but also recognize and understand we've had 2 losses in a row. That are frustrating for everybody involved.
Let's go to Frank Bodani, followed by Mark Wogenrich.
Hi, James. Thanks for your time today.
You too, Frank.
Appreciate it. Your offensive line, you returned most of it from last year, and they looked really, really good toward the end of last year. To the viewing public, they don't look the same this year, even with a lot of the same guys. You've mentioned inconsistency before, but is there Is there anything he can point to with just this group as to why they're maybe not performing the way that at least a lot of us were expecting?
Yeah, obviously, we were missing Donka this past week, so that was a difference for us. But from the beginning of the season, again, I think that's fair, and I think the word that I've used is inconsistent. Again, it's not what you want to hear, but that's the reality of it. We've done some really good things at times. We have not dominated the line of scrimmage the way I think we're capable of dominating the line of scrimmage, and not playing as fast and as aggressive as I think we anticipated. So, are there specific reasons? Yeah, but not that I could give you broadly. There's specific reasons on each play when you have 5 guys out there, 6 if you include the tight end, and one guy doesn't execute the block the way it needs to be executed. And what happens is on each play, it may be a different guy not executing at the rate that it needs to be executed at, so, or not as physical as it needs to be, or the right footwork or landmark. So it's a combination of those things. And again, I know you're asking for a specific question that covers it for the season, but that's challenging to do when it's more play by play.
Last question on Zoom, Mark Wogenrich.
Hi, James. Thanks again.
Hey, Mark, you too.
How was the tone and tenor of the locker room on Sunday? And do you have any concerns about losing that room?
Yeah, this is a resilient group. I think when you watch the game, obviously we have 2 losses, but there's no signs of that on tape. Our guys battled and played really hard. We didn't always play smart, but we battled. We had a chance to win both of those games when maybe there was times where that did not look like it was the case. 2 weeks ago, we give up 2 touchdowns back to back, and it looks like we're in a tough situation. We battle back and go to overtime. Not enough to win the game, and ultimately that's all that matters. But specific to your question, we did the same thing last week. Is there hurt in the locker room? Yes, no doubt about it. Was there hurt on Sunday? Yeah, no doubt about it, and there should be. But we got a strong group. We got a resilient group. We got a bunch of leaders that have been through adversity in their past. So no, I don't have those concerns right now. But obviously, a big factor in all of this is they have to tune out the negativity and focus on the things that matter and that are going to get us better.
We'll go to questions in the room over here on the right. Mark.
Hey, James, thanks for your time. You said multiple times that it starts with you. I don't think anybody would ever accuse you of not working hard enough to people who follow the program, but what does that mean that it starts with you? What could you be doing better?
Yeah, I think it's all of it, right? It's how we game plan. It's how we practice. It's how we develop. It's holding everybody in the building accountable. It's all of it. But I'm also not going to allow 2 games that are extremely disappointing to overshadow the growth that we've had in this program over the last 12 years. So it's a balance of both of that. The reality is we're talking about right now, and the last 2 weeks weren't good enough, and ultimately I'm responsible. So I hired the staff. We've recruited the players. I'm ultimately responsible for all of it. So offensively, defensively, special teams. I'm there to support those guys. I'm there to challenge. I'm there to hold everybody accountable. And that's the nature of my job. And I totally get that. And totally take responsibility for it.
Neil.
Hey, James.
Neil.
Just a couple quick follow-ups from the other day. Is there some regret at not you talk about the middle eight a lot, of not operating with more urgency toward the end of the first half when we're sitting on timeouts, and also should you have been rushing the punter on the safety? I wonder about those couple things.
Yeah. So a couple things. The first thing is the end of the half. When you don't execute the fourth down, and not able to finish the drive and do what you want to do, then everything else is left up to interpretation. Fair? But let me finish. But to me, you can't say that we should have used the timeouts and then say, well, we left them time to get a field goal. Like, you can't have it both ways. We're trying to go down, score a touchdown, and leave as little time left on the clock as possible. We get the first down. Now we're able to use the timeouts and use as much time as we possibly can. The other thing is they called timeout on fourth down. So, yeah, I get it. When it doesn't go the way you want it to go, everything is going to be questioned and challenged. But to me, you can't say that we should have used the timeouts, but then also criticize us for leaving time for them to go down the field and kick a field goal. I don't understand how you can make both arguments at once. But I also understand. Yeah, the safety. Obviously we were expecting them to punt it deep and us to put ourselves in a position to set up a return. They ended up taking the safety there, which was a discussion on the headset, which approach that they would take. And obviously we needed to have guys in position to rush the punter for the safety there in that situation.
Audrey.
Hi, James. How would you evaluate the job that Andy's done up to this point? Obviously, you guys are 70th in total offense.
Yeah. Again, all of it ultimately is my responsibility. And then there's a shared responsibility between myself and the coordinators and the assistant coaches. Up to this point, we have not been as productive as we expected to be and anticipated being. We've had slow starts. If you look, what we were able to do in the second half, that's more, I think, who we're capable of being. But we can't go on the road and start slowly and do that 2 weeks in a row and really, it's interesting because we went down with the opening drive and got a touchdown. The issue is obviously they were able to score and get an onside kick. So I think we had 3 possessions in the first half on offense. And part of that is the offense's responsibility to stay on the field and maximize those possessions. And part of it is getting off the field on defense to give as many possessions for our offense as possible. But myself and Andy share that responsibility, and we have not been productive enough at this point of the season.
John.
Hey, James.
John.
Have you considered making any staff changes after the start to the season?
Yeah, I understand, all the questions. Ultimately, it starts with me. And then, like I just mentioned, there's shared responsibility between myself, the coordinators, and the assistant coaches. I have a ton of confidence in those men, or I would not have brought them in the building. But we're in a results-oriented business, and we need to produce. So my job is to hold everybody accountable and create an environment where the players and the coaches can be successful. And that's what we're going to do moving forward, starting with Northwestern.
Tyler?
Hi, James. We're nearly at the midpoint of this regular season. Katron and Nick both have about 60 carries apiece, and Katron's averaging more than 3 yards ahead of Singleton at this point. Who is determining on your staff which running back is involved, play-to-play, series-to-series? And I know you said, looking at it in post-game, you've had some discussions about it, but what was the confidence level that led you to get Singleton 15 more snaps than Katron over the course of that game going in?
Yeah, so we discuss rotation as a staff every single week. That's part of the coordinator's plan. That's part of the position coach's plan. And for us, we're tracking touches more than we're tracking plays. Those guys are rotating essentially by series, but we're tracking touches. And obviously that was a discussion after the game, but it was also a discussion before the game that we need to get Katron more touches and more carries.
In the front, Jack.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Good, Jack.
Doing good. You already talked about, you said that you already had discussions with some of your coaches and your assistants regarding how to kind of adjust and move forward from UCLA, now looking forward to Northwestern. What are those kind of early discussions been like of how to kind of change your game plan looking forward?
Yeah, I think the first thing is stick together, because I think what is human nature is to point in other people's direction, and making sure that as a staff that we're not doing that we're all starting with ourselves and our responsibilities and our side of the ball. I've been places when times get tough, the defense is pointing fingers at the offense, or the offense is pointing fingers at the defense or special teams. And we're not going to do that. So it's everybody owning their responsibility in this, staying as positive as we can, not spending energy on the things that don't help us get better, and find solutions on the film, find the solutions back on the fundamentals. At the end of the day, that's what it comes back to, is the fundamentals and techniques. And coaching. Those things never leave you wrong, and we got to make sure that we are executing the fundamentals and the techniques within the scheme. You look at us specifically on the defensive side of the ball, we didn't have a bunch of missed assignments in the game, but we're not executing the scheme or the techniques and fundamentals at a high enough level, whether that's defeating blocks, whether that's our eyes being appropriate, those things.
In the middle, Audrey.
Sorry. When you kind of look at the bigger context of where you guys are in this season, what do you feel like you individually need to do better? Because you said it starts with you. You hired everybody. What are you kind of focusing on, and how do you try and ignore the noise when it has gotten pretty loud?
Yeah, again, we gotta find a way to beat Northwestern. That's all that matters. Obviously you go back and you study every game, and you look at it in great detail and say, what could we do better? What can we execute better? What calls would we like to have over? And then also, why did we make the call that we made? Fundamentals, technique, footwork, all the fundamentals it comes back to. And for me, it's holding everybody in the building accountable to that and making sure that it happens. That is my responsibility. And, after going back and studying the things that we didn't do well and the corrections that need to be made moving forward, then from that point, it's what do we have to do against Northwestern to get a win and start getting this thing rolling in a positive direction. Where people are excited and looking forward to the rest of the season.
In the middle, John.
James, you mentioned earlier the growth that you've made from when you initially got here till now, but the results like this in a season with these kind of expectations, when you start 3-2, does that shake your belief at all on what you can achieve at Penn State and breaking past kind of the points you've gotten to this point?
Yeah. Again, fair question. I believe in Penn State. I believe in our players. I believe in the men in the Lash building, men and women in the Lash building. And I believe in myself. And obviously, after the last two games, we're going to get these types of questions. I get it. But again, when you look at the complete picture, which right now no one wants to talk about. We want to talk about, what just happened in the games we just played. I get that, but I need to make sure that everybody within the Lash building keeps everything in perspective. We get this fixed, we move forward, we find a way to beat Northwestern, and as you can imagine, we're as motivated as we've ever been to do that.
Over here on the left, Avery.
James, thanks for your time. Going back to last week, do you think that, obviously given the results and everything, do you think there can be an overemphasis on, trying to, not turn 2 losses into 3 and things like that? Do you think that that's something that you guys kind of considered at all following the aftermath of the game?
I would say no, except the fact that we just have to tune all the stuff out that doesn't put us in the best position to be successful, and focus on the things that really matter the most. But tuning all that outside noise out that does not help us go out and beat Northwestern, that's critical. So, that can be challenging at times. But we need to make sure that within the Lash building, everybody's focused and controlling the things that we can control and playing really well against Northwestern, and not only winning the game, but playing better and getting excited about what we can do this season.
We got time for 2 more questions. On the right, Tyler.
Thanks, James. A few minutes ago, you said that you were not playing as fast or as aggressive as we have in the past on the defensive side of the ball. Considering the move to get Jim and what you talked about that meaning and what we've heard about from the facility about that, what that means, is that a letdown in Game 5 of the season? And I know you mentioned that there's an adjustment to a new scheme and playing with confidence, but are you surprised that after 4 games of football that's what you've got?
Yeah, obviously, again, we're not where we need to be right now. Am I surprised? Yeah, I'm surprised where we are in all 3 phases and where we are after last game. Yes, that's accurate.
In the front, Mike.
James, thanks for your time today. I don't ever remember you not coming out and giving a scouting report of the opponent, and you didn't do that today. Why was that?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Obviously focused on the last game as much as we possibly could. So I'm glad you asked. So I appreciate that, Mike. Obviously getting into our next opponent, which I would love to do, so I definitely should have done that. Northwestern and Coach Braun. Coach Braun's done a really good job. Promoted from the interim head coach. Got a defensive background. Has done some really good things in his past and his history. You see this team taking on his personality. Defensively, if you look at their defensive coordinator, and obviously the head coach has a big part in that, Tim McGarrigle, his second season. They're a 4-down defense, cover 4, very similar in some ways, I would say, to what we see from Iowa. We've been impressed with their defensive back, number 9, Braden Turner, number 91, Aiden Hubbard, number 37, their linebacker, Mac Uline, and then defensive back, number 6, Robert Fitzgerald. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Zach Lujan, same deal, second year with Coach. They're an 11 personnel and 12 personnel team. They got transfer quarterback from SMU, Preston Stone. We've been impressed with, can do things not only with his arm but also with his feet. Running back, number 5, Caleb Komalafe, downhill physical runner. And then wide receiver, Griffin Wilde, who they got as a South Dakota State transfer. And then on special teams, Coach Creighton is a long-time special teams coordinator, been doing it a long time. We've been impressed with their punter, number 11, Luke Akers, and their kickoff returner, number 6, Joseph Hyman. Mike, I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah, I normally do that, and I apologize for missing that.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Thank you.